I'm going to hope to get Jay Freddy on the show here soon. We've been talking about it and going back and forth. So we're going to iron out a time and date to talk to Jay Freddy about his involvement in UPW and also in Syracuse's Wild Zero Wrestling, which is going to have a show on Sunday, this Sunday, January 13th. And Wild Zero has a pretty wild card, forgive the pun there, for this Sunday at the Pastime Athletic Club in Syracuse. And let me just go over this card with you really quick. Let me just pull it up here. The show is called Love Will Tear Us Apart. It's on Sunday, January 13th. It starts at 6 o'clock. I think the doors probably open at 5. And let me just pull up. They didn't really update their page, but they did put some photos up of the matches. So we know Cheech is going to take on Matt Cross. Let's see. We got Dick Justice versus Nick Ando versus Colin Delaney versus Sean Carr in what's being called a Feast or Famine free-for-all. Joe Gacy is going to take on Alexander James. Cheech, like I said, is going to take on Matt Cross. Orange Cassidy is going to take on Puff. Jay Freddy is going to take on WWE former superstar Simon Grimm, who you might remember as a member of the Vaudevillains with Aiden English. I think he went by the name Simon Gotch at that point. And then we know Daniel Garcia, who put on a great match with Jay Freddy at Wild Zero's last event, will be taking on Kevin Blackwood. I believe we're going to see other matches on the card. I want to say I believe Killer Instinct was going to make an appearance, but I'm not 100% sure. So we'll find out more on the 13th with Wild Zero Wrestling. And also coming up, New York Championship Wrestling on Saturday, this Saturday, January 12th. It's going to have their New Year's Bash event at the Accelerate Sports Complex in Whitesboro, New York. Let me just pull up their card. It's pretty interesting as well. And New Year's Bash. Here we go. Bear with me. I'm pulling it up right now. Sorry. Okay, so we know the main event. The New York Championship Wrestling Tag Team Champions, the Stepdads, will be defending their titles against the Savage Wolves. A big debut this Saturday for New York Championship Wrestling is the man, Johnny Moran, and he's going to be taking on Tyler Vincent. This match is going to be very interesting because these two guys have similar styles. They're also very young, very good at what they do. It's going to be an awesome match to witness, so you need to get out and see that match. High Voltage Omar, who also we are trying to get on the show. We had a little technical difficulties the other night when we tried to do an interview with him, so we'll be able to get him back on soon. Well, he's going to be taking on Dante Dio, who has been on the shows for New York Championship Wrestling since their day one show back in October. An interesting match here, a tag match with Killer Instinct. It's going to be Mike Skyros and Kevin Cartwright taking on Kirby Wackerman and the Great Nuka. If you remember from the show in December, Season's Beatings, Killer Instinct cost their own man, Jacoby Riddick, a match against Kirby Wackerman, and then Jacoby Riddick walked out of Killer Instinct. So it's going to be just the two, Mike Skyros and Kevin Cartwright, taking on the Great Nuka and Kirby Wackerman. And the Great Nuka had a face turn at Season's Beatings when he helped his teammates take down Scotty Arrow, and he aligned himself with Dante Dio and the likes. The Nachi Mafia is going to be taking on the Street, and the Street is very impressive. They're high-flying. They're very technical and high-flying wrestlers, and the Nachi Mafia really gets the crowd behind them, so it's going to be an interesting tag match, and hopefully it'll put one of those teams in line for a tag team title shot. There's going to be a triple threat match. The Beast from the Northeast, Brute Van Slyke, the Central New York super heavyweight champion, which is not a what do you call it, an accredited championship with New York Championship Wrestling. But he'll be on in a triple threat match with Price Wright and Scotty Arrow. So it's going to be interesting to see if Scotty Arrow is going to duck Brute Van Slyke again in this match, and maybe it'll become a one-on-one match. We don't know. We hope Scotty Arrow lives up to his word when he was on our show a couple weeks ago and said he wouldn't run again from Brute Van Slyke. So that's going to be an interesting triple threat. A tag match, interesting one. Lance Madewell and Guy Sedlowski is going to take on Danny Adam and a mystery partner. You remember from December that Danny Adam turned on his friend Guy Sedlowski and cost Lance Madewell and Tyler Vincent a match against the Savage Wolves. So Danny Adam on our show last said that he is planning something and he's got somebody in mind to go on this quest with, and we'll hope to find out more what Danny Adam is up to and who is going to be joining him on his crusade against Guy Sedlowski and Lance Madewell. Fox Vineyard is going to take on Jacoby Riddick. It'll be interesting to see if the crowd responds to Jacoby Riddick as a face or a heel. And Fox Vineyard is coming off a huge victory in December in New York Championship Wrestling. We know also that 6:45 there's going to be a dark match. Hired Force is going to take on T.J. Crawford and Nick Curry, the kid Nick Curry, who we are talking to now to get on the show. There's something about this Nick Curry that I saw at Seasons Beatings in New York Championship Wrestling. I think he's got a great future, and he is a third-generation wrestler. His grandfather, Wild Bill Curry, and his father, Flying Fred Curry. So it's going to be interesting to see where the future takes this kid. I think he's excellent at what he does. He showed really great skills in this four-way match at Seasons Beatings for New York Championship Wrestling. It's going to be good to see him develop. He's really young, and probably I guess you would consider him a rookie still. I don't know, but he's got a great future ahead of him, and I really like to get him on the show to talk to him soon. Also on the card for New Year's Bash, the New York Championship Wrestling is going to crown their first women's champion. It's going to be a triple threat. Corinne Minks versus Riley Shepard and versus PJ the Whip Gonzalez, who was on our show a couple months ago. I'm really proud of PJ Gonzalez for coming as far as she has in the world of professional wrestling. You remember she is a transgender woman. That doesn't negate her skills as a wrestler. I think she's come a long way. She's been booked all over the Northeast. She has a good attitude when it comes to wrestling, and I'm very proud of her, and I really hope she walks away with the NWCW Women's Championship. So that's going to be this Saturday, January 12th, Accelerate Sports Complex. The CNY Wrestles podcast will be there, and we'll be recording a live podcast of the show to broadcast the next day, hopefully, as long as technology cooperates. So just to get back to Mean Gene Okerlund, he last really big thing he did in wrestling was probably taping Legends House, which was on the WWE Network. And I think seeing him on that show really led us to know him better. And there's one clip I want to play you from Legends House that kind of sums up Mean Gene Okerlund and how he felt about life. I'm going to play that for you right now.
It was all in good fun, and I certainly hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings. If I did, f*** them.
And how can you not have respect for a man like that who says what he feels, and if you don't like it, fuck you. So yeah, I mean, Mean Gene Okerlund, a legend, gone too soon, dead at the age of 76 this past Wednesday. No one's going to fill his shoes, so nobody should try. Hopefully we'll have somebody that'll come along to captivate us as Mean Gene Okerlund did in a different way. So some announcements I want to just throw out there at the end of the show. This year, the New York, Central New York Wrestles podcast, we're going to hope to host a couple of live podcasts and Q&As with some wrestlers, maybe before shows, maybe for Wild Zero or New York Championship Wrestling or Mike King's Immortal Championship Wrestling. or the Dynasty if they come back up to Central New York. So we'll be talking to them. Hopefully we can set something up with to align with one of their shows to do a live Q&A and podcast with some of the wrestlers of those organizations. I'm also going to try to get some legends on as a live podcast and Q&A. Maybe sell some tickets, raise some money for charity. One goal I have, I want to put together a charity wrestling show. I want to talk to some local wrestlers, talk to some legends that might come out for a charity wrestling show, and not anytime soon, maybe September of this year or maybe next spring. I just want to look into that. Hopefully I can work with a local promotion, borrow their ring, borrow some of their talent, and put together something that we can do every year in Central New York to raise some money for local charities. So we'll be looking into that in the future. In the meantime, we'll be back with some guests in the new year. We'll be talking to Robo, the Dynasty champion, soon. Hopefully we'll have Jay Freddy on, Nick Curry. We're in the works on a lot of interviews, and we'll be bringing those to you in the new year. So thank you for joining us today. As always, you can get us subscribe to us on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio. You can find us on Facebook at CNY Wrestles Podcast. We're on Twitter at PodcastCNY, and you can email us at cnywrestlespodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you this Saturday, January 12th, at New York Championship Wrestling's New Year's Bash.
Holy ball!